brother and I grew up in Illinois and in pretty nice circumstances, and we all wanted a dog. So the four of us kids formed a club on my sister's canopy bed, and we were going to run away to the Vermont mountains and have a dog farm. And so our parents gifted us a Caribou Terrier that Christmas, and it was a beautifully trained dog, and we ruined the training. But Tommy was a good dog owner, and uh, that's my introduction.
So, good morning, everybody. I became aware as I read our lovely purpose statement repeatedly that there were phrases in there that were calling to me, and I just wanted to convene a conversation about those phrases this morning and see where that goes. I'll seed it with a few thoughts and a few skills, I believe, that are relevant to this. So one of those phrases is deepening spiritual connection. Another is sharing deep inner feelings with each other, creates and expands our mutual loving support. We find that living with authenticity is an inspiration, and we know that we are one, which is the ultimate connection. So the key words in here for me are deepening spiritual connection, deep inner feelings, and the sharing of feelings and authenticity. What is that in relation to these other ideas? How do we live with authenticity? So there are many ways to go deeper for us as a group, I think, to foster connection, and we can experiment with authenticity in various ways. When we show up to support each other in so many ways, that fosters deep connections. And on these calls, our primary vehicle is discussion. It's sharing, and it is sharing of deep inner feelings. And so how do I contribute to that? What can I do with that vehicle, with that opportunity? So I wanted to look more deeply into this intention and the commitments. The group obviously works really well, so it's not like it needs any fixing. And I was still intrigued by the idea of what does deeper mean. And I remembered that some years ago, we used a process called conocimiento when we had very large groups of 40 people who we wanted to introduce to us and to each other. And we had them answer certain questions and write them up on big chart pads and wallpaper the room with their answers. And so everybody could go around and read what all 40 people had said. And one of the questions we asked when we did this was, what is your greatest hope for our time together? And anybody want to take a guess about what the most common answer was at the top of people's lists? And now we were doing diversity, equity, and inclusion work. And they knew they were heading into a day or 2 days or 3 days of conversation about diversity, equity, inclusion, a training. What do you think the most frequent request was? I see some in the chat: connection, heart connection. You can unmute yourself and just speak it out if you want to do that. I see
unity.
Unity. Nobody's hit it yet. There's a phrase that they used over and over and over.
I'd say hope.
Well, we're kind of asking them what are their greatest hopes, but that was embedded in it. What it was they asked for open and honest conversation. that phrase appeared always as one of the top two things on all the lists with every group we did. Open and honest conversation. And the second one was, don't let it stop here. So now remember, these are organizations. I might have said that a lot of this is in institutions of higher learning like universities and corporate clients like Procter and Gamble. So these people are speaking what their greatest hope is on paper in front of all these folks. Open and honest conversation. So that, in order to deliver that, we had to figure out exactly what is an open and honest conversation. How do you do it? So it's related to the inner, the deeper inner sharing of feelings. And the answer, the question really is, if people can say authentically what they're feeling, what their emotions are, if they have the language to share with each other what they truly feel, then they feel that they have succeeded in having an open and honest conversation. So open and honest means complete sharing of the truth of all their emotions. It's operational. And we have that embedded in our purpose statement. I want to get more specific, though, today, to play with that a little bit. I'll do that in a minute. So just to focus in on some of these keywords, that's going deeper. What does going deeper mean? If the question is, what are true, authentic emotions, then it's useful to know when I am actually keyed in on an authentic emotion. And that's tricky in this culture because we have not been trained to distinguish emotions from all the other things that the word feeling refers to. For us, feelings can mean a million different things. It can mean judgments, it can mean sensations, it can mean interpretations, opinions, just about anything. It may include emotions, but not necessarily. So when we talk about deep inner feelings, unless we give that a bit of a definition, we could get a pretty wide range of things. And what we found in working with those groups is that it's not the sharing of their thoughts that had them succeed at making the important connections and had them succeed at open and honest sharing. It was the emotions that had them fulfill that promise, not the thoughts, the emotions. So I'd like to recall some of a presentation that I did a while back called Achieving a Mind Like Water. I don't know, some of you may remember that, in which we talked about emotional competence. And I made a distinction between emotional intelligence, emotional literacy, and emotional competence at the time. Emotional intelligence, I want to say, is a misnomer because the guy that wrote the book on emotional intelligence didn't even know what an emotion was. If you read his first volume on the book Emotional Intelligence, there's no list of emotions in the book. So he didn't even know how to tell the difference between a thought and an emotion, but he's giving us emotional intelligence. Way back at the tail end of that first book of his that made him so famous, there was a page of adjectives, of words, and he said that was a list of feelings or emotions. But I looked at the list and I could tell there were some emotions in there, but a lot of it was judgments and interpretations and other things that weren't emotions. And when I looked at the citation of the page, it turned out that he got that list of words from an English teacher at some college in New York City. And she was using it to help her students enrich their vocabulary in their compositions and their writing. And he had lifted that and put it in as if that were a list of emotions. So the first thing that I would pay attention to, if we are looking to be authentic and connected and share deep inner emotions, then we want to know what the primary emotions are compared to what they aren't. So let me share my screen if I can here. See if I can get a few things up. I hope I can get through this quickly. Okay, there we go. That's my little sign in that my quest for cosmic consciousness leads me invariably through the forest of human emotions. Because this recording is audio or audio and video, Mary Grace? Is it both?
Yes, it's both.
Okay, so these slides are going to show up in the recording.
Dana records it for YouTube.
Okay, great. Emotional literacy then is the ability to differentiate between thoughts and emotions and recognize the 6 primary emotional families. I already commented on emotional intelligence. Grammatically, we distinguish thoughts and feelings this way, that thoughts are full sentences. It's a predicate. It's introduced with words like, you, and as if. So I feel like, as soon as I hear like, I know it's going to be a thought, not an emotion. Because grammatically, emotions are adjectives. And if I'm confused, it's because I'm not able to make that distinction. And I'm not able to say what my emotion is. And the solution to confusion is to identify the emotion that is behind the experience of confusion. The reason those 6 emotions are there is because we found over quite a long period of time that they were very, very functional to have people have the conversations they needed to have, number one. To have that authentic sharing, they needed to have vocabulary for when they were mad about something, when they were sad about something, when they were scared, but also to build a healthy environment. They also needed a vocabulary for the peace and the serenity that they were seeking and the empowerment that they were seeking, because we're dealing all the time with marginalized groups who've been disempowered historically. So who gets to say they feel empowered or powerful is a very important variable. And increasing the vocabulary of empowerment with words like confident and pride and proud, it becomes a really important thing to highlight. And joyful incorporates a whole family of words like excitement, and inspired can be put in there somewhere. Now, some words don't clearly fit into these families. The reason it's useful to know these families is because these are purposeful and they signal what behaviors we might engage in. But that's not the purpose of this particular conversation this morning. But since I'm mentioning it, mad, for example, signals that I've experienced some kind of violation. And the anger is my energy to help me address that boundary violation or to reset a boundary, or renegotiate something and make it stick. So mad is associated with holding boundaries. Sad is about signaling a loss, and it triggers the behavior of validating the importance of validating the importance of the loss. Scared signals the need for protection. And peaceful, powerful, joyful signal, keep on doing what I'm doing that's working, okay? So that's what emotional competence is. It's recognizing the purpose of the emotions and following through on the behaviors. But for our purposes today, all we're talking about right now is how many of these do I have at my tip of my tongue? How many of these do I have the currency to share with you, with each other? How good am I at saying I feel resentful about something, or I feel sad or scared or something? And how good am I at distinguishing peaceful, powerful, and joyful in my life and in my conversation with you? That's the question, which leads to our first exercise, if you will. If you'll take those 6, and you may remember doing this a while back, just take out a piece of paper or do it mentally. Write down those 6 in order. Which one of those emotions do you feel is easiest for you to express, to name and share with somebody else? And you can do that both at home and at work if you have a workplace, because your permission can be different there. You can also ask, which of these did I have most permission to share when I was growing up in the house that I came from? So you rank order those. At the top go the words that the emotional families that you had most permission to speak of. And at the bottom go the ones that you had least permission to speak of. Then you draw your line somewhere in that stack of 6 words. And below the line are the ones that you don't have permission to speak of or to share. When you have that stack, when you have that line, when you know what was above and below the line when you were growing up, then you probably have your substitution pattern at hand. You probably have the words that, like for me, sad and scared are at the bottom. I was trained to be a traditional guy. So sad and scared are at the bottom. They're below the line. I'm not supposed to talk about those. But feeling powerful or mad is okay to do. And given that that was the training I had, and that was the family I grew up in, that was the kind of father I had, when I felt sad or scared, what you would experience is my anger. Or I would act like I was in control when I wasn't. I was scared, but I would act like I was in control. I would act powerful. So I'd substitute powerful for scared. And I'd substitute mad for sad or scared. That substitution is important for me to know because my authenticity depends on that. If I'm engaged in substituting one feeling for another, I won't be experienced or coded by other people as authentic. So this is one of the distortions that get in the way of being authentic and being connected when it comes time to share deep inner feelings. One is that I don't have the vocabulary of core emotions, or I've got a partial vocabulary. I can talk about some, but not others. And in that case, when I have one emotion, and it could be anything, some people's line is at the very top. They just didn't have permission to talk about any emotions. This group, of course, has been practicing this for a long time. So in this group, there's a lot of permission to talk about all of these. However, you could ask, which one of these are you least likely to want to share in this circle?
Mad.
Which is easiest to share in the circle and which is hardest? Like how often do we talk about feeling resentful or angry? There's a little bit of downward pressure on that in civilized groups, typically, because we don't know for sure what to do with it. All right. Would anybody like to share? I'm going to stop the share. No, I'll leave it up there because the words are up there. Anybody like to share? What's your substitution pattern? What do you think is easiest and hardest for you in the range of your emotional expression? And I cannot see all the screen when I'm sharing the screen, so just unmute yourself and speak up if you know what yours is.
For me, it's the substitution is sad, and below the line is powerful, scared, and mad.
Is mad at the bottom or is
Mad is at the bottom.
the very bottom?
Yeah.
So when you get mad, especially if you're caught by surprise, you might show sadness instead?
Yeah, yeah, disappointment.
Disappointment.
That's the sad, yeah.
Okay. So that's an extremely common substitution for women in a traditional culture, the US culture and binary gender world. So if you are angry with the guy, this is a heterosexual example here, if you're angry with the guy and you start to cry, he might misinterpret and think that that is sadness, and he might move closer to you to comfort your sadness, which you might experience as a compounded violation. Like now you get even more angry. Okay, that's an extremely common pattern. There is a parallel that guys often do, which is not that one. Any other takers on your substitution patterns? Thank you, Christine.
We find that I can be mad, sad, scared, and not show it at all.
I didn't hear the last sentence, Jonathan.
And not show it at all.
You can feel all three of those, but not show them.
Exactly.
Okay, so what are you showing instead?
I'm nothing, I'm
So
not
you
showing.
don't show peaceful?
Peaceful, but it may show itself as peaceful, but nothing.
Okay, nothing, numbness or blankness, right?
It's more like the sport thing, you don't show what you're really feeling.
Okay, so you'd have all three of those below your line.
Yeah.
Yeah, until you get consciously able to choose to reveal them.
Exactly.
Knowing you're in a safe place.
Exactly.
Okay, so if you're like me, there will probably be a downward pressure all your life on those. Depending on where you are, you can move past it more easily. But if you're caught by surprise, or if things are a little unclear, that will sort of be the default that you could go back to.
I had something happen this weekend where I relived what happened to me in Green Bay. And I was able to break through that. Something that I'd held for many, many, many years was released. Yeah.
Okay, so let me make a comment here, and I see you, Hadia, will come to you in a moment. It turns out that it isn't necessary to make a lot of noise about our emotions when we share them. We don't have to cry buckets of tears or get loud when we get angry or shake when we're scared. That the expression of our emotions and the style that we express our emotions through when we're transacting is a cultural variable. Different cultures do it differently. Some cultures are very expressive, others are muted. I mean, think Italians and Greeks compared to Germans and Brits. And if you have any of those heritages, you can see them probably at the dinner table, the form of expression. So for our purposes, all that's necessary is to be accurate. And that's one of the fundamental premises of this, is just to know what it is, be able to name it and share it, but not worry too much about how expressive it is. Be accurate. People will experience us as being authentic if we are aligned in our emotion, our thought, and our behavior. And to be aligned, we just need to be accurate about it. We don't have to make a lot of noise about it. So the fact that a lot of men have different emotional programming than a lot of women doesn't mean that men don't have a full emotional experience. We do, but when it comes time to reveal it, we will probably reveal it in what's called the male mode of feeling. We're much more likely to reveal it in ways that men in general have been taught is acceptable, which is not to make too much of a noise about it. Now that's a generalization, and all generalizations are false. But Hattie, let me come back to you, and then Levita. What are you thinking?
For me, my first reaction is shut down, numb, confusion. Underneath all that is sadness and because of separation.
So you have confusion kind of on top.
Yeah.
Okay. And confusion is like having your line at the very top of the 6 emotions, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because none of them are specified in confusion.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, my confusion comes from, like, I don't know what's happening here. Why are we like in conflict or just upset? It, even after all these years, it takes me by surprise.
Well, it might be a useful distinction to notice that confusion is different from ignorance. Like, I don't know something can be, I don't know it because I haven't found out yet. It's ignorance, not in a pejorative sense, but just I don't know. I find it useful to think of confusion as an emotional state that is not, the emotion's not yet identified.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
sure.
the resolution of confusion is to know what it is I feel. And
yeah, it takes me, yeah, for sure. It takes me a long time to figure out what I'm feeling, what I'm thinking, and how I want to move forward. Like, it takes me a long time to process that because my first reaction is shut down. I get scared and I shut down and I freeze. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank
Then
you.
thank you. A related question would be, is there any way in which your patterns, and this is for all of you, is there any way in which your patterns show up in the circle here? Is there any downward pressure on your sharing? Levita, what did you want to say about this?
Yeah, thank you, Hattie, for the confusion. The confusion usually leads me to feeling very vulnerable and abandoned. And I see they're not showing up on the list anywhere, but at the same time, yeah. Like sorting it out, I go into freeze mode because it strikes me as being out of context initially. Whatever it is, if, the upset or the trigger, it's out of context and I don't know what to do with it. But I feel, in the meantime, I feel extremely vulnerable and abandoned. And I have to work really hard not to abandon myself.
Okay, let's go to the concept of cover words. One of the barriers to recognizing primary emotions is settling for covers, like upset, uncomfortable, confused, frustrated, overwhelmed. And cover words are non-specific. They're often evaluations. They conceal the primary emotions. And so that's what I hear, Levita, is part of the confusion or the distress, it sounds like for you, is not going beneath the cover to figure out which one of the 6 emotions you're actually dealing with. And it sounds like you're trying to figure it out by thinking about the issue or the cause or the topic, or some would say the context, thinking about that probably doesn't yield a lot of beneficial result compared to just pick one of the 6 beneath it for whatever reason, without knowing any reasons, which one of the 6 am I actually feeling? And I actually explaining what it's for or about is a bit of a rabbit hole.
Yeah.
It's a really good start just to pick one and know that that's what I'm dealing with, because at least then my confusion is largely resolved. Now if like, oh, I'm scared. I'm not really, the primary thing I got going on is I'm scared. Or maybe I'm scared and mad and sad all at the same time. But the one I want to pick is scared. So I know that I need some kind of protection. At least I've got a path forward about what I'm going to do. Is where I would go with that. But I don't need, in this group, in this circle, in order to be authentic and connect, I don't need to know what I'm going to do with my emotion. I just want to know what it is. And I see that all the time here. People say, I'm not exactly sure what I'm going to do, but this is what I feel. Yeah? I saw you next, Bill, and then Christine.
Okay, thank you, Thomas. Yeah, it was interesting. Actually, I was responding to the previous chart that you had up there with the various. Yeah, there we go. There, thank you. And the ones for me, I was raised in a very religious household, and so the ones below the line would be mad, sad, and scared. The ones above the line could be talked about, but there was a caveat. It had to be, we always had to keep God like a silent partner beside us. So if being powerful, feeling powerful and expressing that could be like being proud. And we shouldn't have pride. Pride goeth before fall, pride in the face of God. I mean, all these kinds of things would sort of come in. And we would get it, my dad, like it could be a facial expression or a tone of voice that would say, you know, that's not okay, the way that you've expressed it. So there was always this self-editing that had to go on. The same was true for peaceful and joyful. It's like, where is God in the picture? Like, I had this presence like waiting on my shoulder, wasn't I? So anyway, I just wanted to say that obviously influenced the way that I express myself. Yeah, thanks very much. This is a great presentation. I love it.
Well, thank you. I would say, Bill, you know, if somebody asked me to say what your stack was, I would have said peaceful and powerful and joyful were up top in a mild-mannered kind of way, you know, not outrageous, but they were definitely on top, and that mad, sad, and scared were probably below those. That's seems to be your MO here in the circle, right?
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
So if that's mine, I'd be thinking about what are the opportunities for connection and sharing in this circle that I'm not exploiting, or that I'm not realizing, or that I'm not taking advantage of. Because all of these emotions are the currency of our connection. They are the currency of building relationships. And the more of these I have available to express, the more I have the threads of relationship are strengthened. Christine?
This is such a great talk. Thank you so much. So I love the idea of cover words, and I thought I would share something that came to me probably a couple of years ago. It's an acronym, and it's FANG, And this is my 4-letter word, and it's fine, okay, nice, and good. And those are the words that I think about in my marriage. My then husband would say, fine. No, how is it's fine? Okay. And those to me it's like, what is it? So thank you for giving a context for why that is a 4-letter word for me.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, now notice that you know what those 4 words are? They're all judgments. They're all evaluations. They're like how you are, not what you are. Or how you feel. Well, they may be
Right.
how you feel, or they may be concealing how you feel, but yeah.
Well, they don't say anything. It's like a null.
Okay.
And I think a lot of time, it's how are you? I'm fine. What does that really mean?
Yeah. So I could go beneath that cover and I could come up with any one of the 6. I could come up that, I'm in love. It was a combination of joyful and powerful and hopefully peaceful as well. It could be that I have some anger that I want to, be honest about, but that would be, I was told by an astrologer that marriages that don't work so well are the ones where both partners are fine. It's hard to come by passion when everything is fine all the time on both sides. All right, let's keep moving here. The primary emotional families, those are the families, and there's lots of words that are clearly in that family. And as we discover our vocabulary with each other, we can expand it on purpose. I've had a lot of people find it useful to actually print up all the words that go in these families and stick it on a refrigerator, and then practice hearing themselves say them out loud. And in particular, I think it's extraordinarily important, and this group's already really good at doing it. But for most folks, there's not a lot of encouragement to expand the vocabulary of peaceful or powerful or joyful. To say I feel playful, to say I feel excited, or to say I'm feeling serene. And I was actually in a parent support group for parents of addicts. And it was informed by 12-step work, and they were fond of saying the serenity prayer. And to me, serenity is an emotional experience. It's in the peaceful family, to feel serene. And I proposed that we set aside a portion of our meeting to feel serene together, to actually practice, even if it's for like a minute or two, to feel serene. And the pushback I got was that they weren't comfortable with that. That was not really what the meeting was about. And I was really surprised by that, because we're praying for it, but feeling it's a whole different matter. Feeling it's a different request. Still, love that group. They were. So here's another question that we can utilize. You're already picking up on it, but what are your preferred cover words? If in conversation here in the circle or anywhere else, you are not actually using the currency of explicit words that clearly denote mad family, sad family, scared family, or peaceful, powerful, joyful, what cover words are you using? Like Christine tagged her 4 very quickly. Anybody else have favorite cover words you want to share?
Yeah, Hyacinth,
Yeah, go ahead, Hyacinth.
grateful.
Well,
Grateful is my everything word.
Well, just because you use it a lot doesn't necessarily mean it's a cover word.
Maybe I don't understand the idea of cover word.
Yeah, well, let's play with it a little bit, because that's a good one. If grateful is a primary emotion, if it's in the primary emotional families,
Yes.
where would it be?
Where would it be?
Peaceful family, powerful family, joyful family.
I would think a grateful family would be a joyful family.
I think so too. Yeah. I think it's an expression of joy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So if we can tag it, if it fits, if it makes sense that it fits into one of those, then I wouldn't say it's a cover word. I'd say it's a variation.
Oh, I see.
Okay. Well, I love that. That's great.
Can I share another one?
Yeah, sure.
When things are sort of going like to where I don't understand, there's an acronym that my mother and I say across the country, ATATO. All things are in divine order. It's like we remind ourselves that no matter what appears to be happening. Now that is that more fitting of a cover word?
Well, first of all, that's a thought. It's an idea. It's a belief. Because it's a whole sentence. So it's not
Right.
an emotion, it's an idea.
Oh, okay.
And then what emotion would that idea lead you to? Maybe you feel more peaceful when you say that and remember that.
Right. It sort of like gets me back on track. It removes the fear, the angst, the anxiety, and just reminds me that God is in control. Divine orders is always in operation. So it's like a calming effect it brings.
Right. So if you started out feeling anxious or scared, and we know that the purpose of this scared is to signal the need, it signals some kind of threat. And it signals that we need some kind of protection. And it sounds like when you feel scared or anxious, you invoke the protection of the higher power.
Right. Always.
And once you invoke the protection, then instead of feeling scared, you feel peaceful.
Absolutely.
Well, that's pretty cool.
This is very cool, Tom. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Well, it's just, you know how when we see a flower or a tree or something, I was out looking at apple trees the other day, and I was with an arborist, and she was explaining to me how in order to put the right application of different sprays or feed or something, and this is all organic regenerative farming, in order to know what the proper approach to the tree was at any given day of the year, she had to look very, very closely at the nature of the buds, whether they had formed, whether they were open, whether they had changed color, whether they had a little bit of a seam in them that was revealing the emergence of a petal. And by looking at all those little tiny distinctions, she then knew what she was supposed to do. It was a very vibrant, living relationship with these apple trees. And people would say, well, when do you apply this particular nutrient? And she'd say, when the tree tells me to. It wasn't by a human calendar, it was by knowing how to read the language of the buds on the tree. So it's the same thing with our emotional vocabulary. When we get a very fine, more expanded, detailed description of our emotional life, we have a deeper relationship, both with ourselves and with other people. It sounds like that's sort of what you just did there, moving from general to more detailed. And with greater wisdom and articulated awareness comes greater appreciation. Okay, anybody else want to kick in before we shift gears? We have 5 more minutes to play. Okay, there's one more thing I want to, Christine, you still got your hand up. I assume it's just you haven't taken it down. Okay. So I want to talk about, we talked about substitution patterns. Here's another idea about being authentic. And that is whether I'm in the here and now as I speak, or whether I've gone into a story about another place and time. Now, how do I know, how do we develop awareness that we've left the here and now? You know, all of us who've studied mindfulness know being in the moment and being mindful. Being mindful means being in the moment. It means discovering the here and now and being willing to be in the moment, the here and now. But how do we do that? Well, one way to do that is what's called an awareness continuum. And an awareness continuum can look like this. It's very simple. At least on the face of it, it's simple. I bring my awareness into the here and now, and then I say whatever it is I'm aware of in the moment. It may be an emotion, it may be a thought. So you can read what I've put up on the screen here. That was just one that I threw up because that just happened to be what was in my head at the moment that I wrote that particular slide. It was so long ago, I don't even remember where this came from, but the key is I'm aware that I'm experiencing, and I'll just do one right now. No, let's do it. Who would like to do an awareness continuum? Because if you go to the one I've put up here, you're not in your here and now. You're in my there and then. So let's practice being in the here and now. Anybody want to give it a go? Stick your hand up because I can see the electronic hands when they pop up. Actually, I think I'm done sharing the screen. So let's pull that away. There we go. Anybody done an awareness continuum like this before? Familiar with it? No? I need a guinea pig. Wiggle your nose if you want to be a guinea pig. Bonnie, okay. Okay, you get to be the guinea pig.
All right.
So take 60 seconds and just start with, I'm in the here and now, and I'm aware, and then I'm aware of, and see if you can stay in the here and now for 60 seconds. Ready? Go. It can be thoughts, it can be emotions, it can be sensations, could be intuition. Now, I'm meaning for you to share this out loud if I didn't make that.
As I do it, okay.
Yeah, right. Now, the rest of you can do it without doing it out loud. You know, that's great.
Ah, okay.
And you can do it with a cat in your arms too.
I felt something nudging my leg. That helped a lot when you said that. Is it emotions? Is it thought? First, it was thoughts. I thought, okay, I'm here now. Joel just Joel was interrupting. So
start every sentence with I'm aware. Now I'm aware
Okay.
of that.
now I'm aware of that. Right now that I'm in a lot of places right now. Right now I'm aware that Sunny is in my arms. Right now I'm aware that my mind is flittering all over. Right now I feel a bit discombobulated. Right now I'm thinking about Joel was just interrupting. I was trying to listen earlier. Right now I'm thinking there's a lot happening this week. Lots of music work and things like that. Right now I'm aware that I'm thinking that I really want to be in one place. That right now I am thinking that I do better staying in one place, but right now I'm thinking or feeling, Joel had a problem with this computer. Of course, he had to deal with that now.
Okay, let's stop you there.
Okay.
That was a roughly minute and a half. So notice when you were in the here and now, and then you were tempted to go someplace else, or you were tempted to go to a different time. When you, I think you just said that something in the past you dealt with a computer.
Oh, Joel, yeah, when I'm trying to listen to your talk,
Oh,
Joel is
okay.
saying, I don't do
So
my
that,
computer.
that's in the here and now. But if you made a reference to, I had a problem with my computer, that would be in the past.
Got it.
So that would have been a departure from the here and now. But I didn't hear you correctly, so I don't know there was that.
I'm sorry, Joel. Well, that was the past. Okay, sorry, you want right here.
Mindfulness, it's whatever it is.
Yeah.
So if it's Joel, that's in the here and now, then that's what it is, right? Now it's a bit of a discipline, but it does take a little practice. Let me open up the floor. We've got, well, actually that we're maybe out of time.
Yeah, we need to wrap up. I think
Oh yeah,
this is a
okay,
great
wow.
presentation that can go on for many more sessions.
Yeah, I'm aware that my time is up, so.
Yeah. Any
Yeah,
final
we
words?
love a part 2.
Okay. Well, thank you for indulging me in this little exercise.